Well, good evening, Royal We Live Chat. Happy Monday night to you. Glad that you are all here with me so far. All two of you, that is. All three of you. We got Shelly Taylor. She's in. Chevy Lynn. Hey, y'all. How's everybody doing tonight? Where's everybody else at? I think some people forgot that tonight was Royal We Live Chat. That's okay. We'll get it started here. Anyways, I'm very happy to be here with you this Monday night. Hopefully you all are doing very good yourselves. You're having a great weekend. You've had a great weekend. You're getting ready for a week ahead. For those of you who are new to Royal We Live Chat, welcome. This is an opportunity for us to just be together as a community. And there's everybody coming on in. Salon Savvy 64, how are you doing? Don Anderson, good evening. Justice, hello. Tanya, hello. Jody Case, hello. Pamela, hello. If you're new to the Royal We Live Chat tonight, be sure to say hi. Say where you're from. What's really cool. Hey, Minnesota Jude, how you doing, buddy? It's good to see everybody here. Pamela Perry, aloha. So I have been posting a lot lately about the Gabby Petito case, and it came about with thanks to you all, actually, because of last week's phone calls. This is one of probably the best part about live chat, is because it's inspiring. As we talk with each other, as we chat, phone calls come in, and thanks to a caller last week brought up the Gabby Petito case that I happened to be watching, and it just kind of ignited a fire to talk. And I'm not interested with a lot of the other YouTube videos and the news resources that are trying to find facts and whatnot and watching outside the door of the family to see what's happening. And I am interested in the facts of the case, but not to try to keep people up to date, but to apply it to our understanding of narcissistic abuse and to keep people up to date in a way. But really, for me, I look at this whole situation as just an open door to really gain an understanding of what the face looks like that you and I deal with. Everything that we talk about here at the Royal We, everything we talk about on Royal We Live, everything that we talk about Royal We Fellowship, everything that the videos are about is about getting out of toxic relationships, understanding how dangerous they can be potentially. Oftentimes with my one-on-one appointments, I have conversations with people, and especially people who are in the dating world. And I just have to bring it up and say, listen, and I've been there when I was in the dating world, but sometimes it just seems you're one really dumb mistake away from becoming a statistic, getting yourself trapped. And so what we see with the Gabby Petito case and Brian Laundrie is everything that we have been talking about. This is, to me, why it's so important. People want to know, why is it getting so much news coverage and this and that? I'm not sure why other people are covering it so much, but for me personally, it's because it's such a recognizable story. Everything from the highs of the relationship and how they were out traveling to the lows, them beating on each other, and then ultimately the ending, which we try to avoid. And it just reminds me that this is why we're here. This is why we're here. So I have... I'm trying not to. I know that there's a lot of people out there that are like, get over it, stop posting about it. I actually have one more video that I want to share on the topic tomorrow. It's a video that I posted, or I actually made the video today. And by the way, today I posted a video about Brian Laundrie's enabling parents. What an enabling family looks like, right? We can see the enabling attitude behind Brian's parents. They're not talking. They're staying silent. They possibly know where Brian is. They know Brian came home, told him what happened. They helped tell him what to do, and they saw him off. They saw the abuse because Gabby and Brian lived with them. So the fact that they're not talking is just ridiculous to me. But again, it's just a reminder of the narcissistic people we deal with. I dealt with that when I was dealing with narcissistic abuse myself. I was looking around saying, does anybody else see this abuse? Does anybody else see these people calling me names? And I'm watching a family just turn their, oh, we don't see anything. No, we don't know what you're talking about, Kevin. I was like, are you crazy? Is this insane? And it is. It's a dysfunctional family. It is a non-caring family of enablers. That was today's video. Tomorrow's video is going to be on something that's a little bit more difficult to talk about, something that a lot of people might not want to hear. But tomorrow's topic is going to be on the mutual toxicity involving Gabby. Something we need to talk about. So let me get our telephone number up there. If I can get my phone going. If I can get my phone opened up. No. Sorry, guys. Trying to get my phone, trying to get everything opened up here. Getting ready to take some phone calls. Hopefully some people out there want to call in and chat. So let me put the telephone number up there for all of you. And until we get a phone call, we'll talk about some other stuff. 338. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this telephone number. And anybody who wants to call in can. Tell us what's going on, what's on your mind. I'm going to do that. Hopefully you guys can see that. And then now I'm also going to pin it. All right. So there's the telephone number. You all are welcome to call in at any time. And until then, let's see if there's any questions or any conversation pieces here on the chat. I'd love to know how you all are doing. Yeah, I did start a little bit late tonight. Not about 9:10, 9:15. Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry, Chevy Lynn. Sorry about starting late. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on talking about the Gabby Petito case? Again, I shared my thoughts on it. The reason I'm talking about the case so much, it just tends to be something where it's right in front of our face. It kind of puts narcissistic abuse, toxic relationships in the forefront, what they look like. If we really break it down and dissect it, it's not just and I think this is what is causing a lot of people to gravitate towards it. There you go. We got a phone call.
Call from Betty.
Hi, you're live on the Royal We.
Hi, my name is Betty.
Hi, Betty. How are you?
Well, I just recently saw your videos, and a lot of things that you have been talking about strike like really resonated with me. And also, you're a person of faith, and that actually matters to me. Basically, in a nutshell, I grew up with a extremely narcissistic, psychopathic mother who would falsely accuse me of things and then torture me. My father ignored it, didn't want to hear anything. He's extremely passive-aggressive. My brothers pretty much have made it so that he can't talk to me because he's it's this dynamic where my mother passed, but they're continuing that kind of behavior.
Okay.
And my father, instead of standing up and being a dad, they say, you can't talk to Betty, and so he doesn't. But then every now and then he'll come around, and the family want this dynamic of me being complacent, smiling. They can be insulting. They can be this way. My father just wants me to go along, keep it nice. And I just
Mm.
can't do that. I choose
Mm.
to stay away. And
Right.
I told him that, and
Mm-hmm.
he can't
Mm-hmm.
accept that. Another
Mm.
thing is, I found myself accepting abusive behavior further in my lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
including having abusive, um, you know, mates. So
Right. Right.
I'm at a point where I have PTSD.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm introverted.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of fear. I can't even go to Walmart because being in the crowd makes me nervous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My question to you is, how do I overcome that and come to a place where I feel okay? I'm centered and it's okay to be myself.
Mm.
And how do I deal with, like, I can't get rid of my father. He is my father. How do I deal with people like that?
Wow. Well, I mean, that's a good question. And my heart goes out to you in your situation. I want to let you know that you are dealing with the same thing a lot of people are dealing with their families. You're not alone in your struggle with your father. Let me ask you this. How old are you? You
I'm
don't
55.
You're 55. Okay.
And
Are
I'm
you married?
55. No,
You're not married, but you've been married.
no.
You've been married.
Actually, no,
Oh, you've never been married.
no,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
no.
Okay. So here's one of the issues that there's a couple of things that I've heard in here. Number two things to tackle. The first thing that I heard is uh, your placement within the family and you not being comfortable within the family. So typically we call this a scapegoated position in a family.
Right. I'm blamed for everything, and the
Right.
dynamic is if I can't address a problem, because and that was the way with my prior relationships is it's your fault. It's
Right.
always you're the problem.
Okay. We'll get
Instead of
to
addressing the problem and coming
Sure.
to an agreement, that can't happen.
Sure. Sure. So we'll talk about why that is, why it's reflecting in all of your relationships, but the two issues are your family dynamics and then also your your future. Your future. Your future relationships. So the first thing
I
that
have to tell you that I actually feel broken.
I know.
And I know part of it is my fault because I learned to accept bad behavior and I learned to be quiet and silent religiously. I was in a religious environment, a cult, and that environment. So I was put in a place and I learned to accept that and that kind of treatment was okay, but it's not okay. But I feel broken. I feel like I'm a broken spirit and I need to feel good
Well,
and
we'll talk
okay.
about this. We'll talk about this. So it's going to struggle. You're going to struggle to feel good and okay about any of this. We all do. All right. We all feel a struggle to feel good and okay about this because it's not good and it's not okay. And what I'm going to tell you is not necessarily good and it's not going to feel okay. So what we have to try to discover is what's true, what's right. And so the reality of what we're dealing with families, especially with narcissistic structure families, is that there's no love in it. You're not in a relationship or situation where there's fairness, equality, love. It's not that. It's status, it's image. And this is what we see in toxic families is children fighting for a position. Who's the right one? Who's the wrong one? Who's the golden child? Who's the scapegoat? And one of the things to understand about the family dynamic, and I've talked about this many times, is that we fall into the trap of believing that we have to be involved with our family for the rest of our lives, and this is false. It's not true. And as a person of faith, there's clear instructions given by God, even in Genesis. In the Old Testament, it says, therefore, a man and a woman, by the way, leaves the mother and father and becomes united to a brand new partner, and the two become one flesh, a new family. So that's not a question. That's not God saying you may want to do this. This is actually a command. This is God saying you leave your mother and father. And then if we look at the story of Abraham, and I'm telling you this because you're a person of faith, but if you look at the story of Abraham, God approaches Abraham and says, I will bless you. I'll make you a father of many nations on one condition. And what was that condition? You leave your family. You walk away from the town of Ur. You walk away from all of your siblings, your cousins, your aunties, your uncles, the animals. You walk away. You leave it all behind. The festivals, the Christmases, the Thanksgivings, everything you celebrate. Walk away from it all and leave it. And if you can't, I can't bless you. I can't make you a father of many nations. Why? Because I'll be competing. God would then be competing with the family. What am I trying to say here? At some point, your family becomes your God, and it's not supposed to be. You trying to fit in with dad and mom and brother and sister becomes the very thing you worship. This is one of the mistakes that we make, and so we need to break that. We need to understand that when we enter into adulthood, we no longer need them, even though we feel we do. And now this comes into the second point. The second thing I want to talk about is the relationships, and this is typical. You get into abusive relationships later on in life, right? And you keep getting hurt over and over and over again. And this is where it's going to get deep and dark, and you're not going to like what I'm going to have to say. What happens is when you experience the narcissistic abuse of your father or your mother, and you go out and you meet other people, one of the things that you don't want to believe is the possibility that your family is just evil. This is something we don't want to accept, right? It's kind of like the story of looking at the story of Cain and Abel. We know that that's real. We know that we have two brothers born both of Adam and Eve, same relatives, same upbringings. One is a murderer. And we struggle to say, it's a story, but is life really like that? Well, yes, it is. Life is like that all over the world. Right now, some man is beating his wife. Some parents are beating their children. Some children are plotting to kill their parents. This is the world we live in. We are sheltered from it the best we can. But it gets into the understanding of this is evil. We are in an evil place. What happens is when you have a father or a mother who's abusive, you go on, you find relationships, you typically gravitate towards abusive types. And what you try to do is you hope that relationship, you hope that person will be better. You hope that you can change them. It's kind of like another opportunity to reach out for your dad and say, are you evil? Or are you a good person? And you think that by staying in an abusive relationship, that if you can find that good person, then you don't have to accept that your dad was evil, sort of a thing. You don't have to accept that evil's real. It proves you wrong. Instead of saying and coming to the reality that nope, my dad is evil. And so was my mom possibly. My mom was evil. So are my brothers and sisters. They don't love me, and accepting that. And that's hard. And then you get into the question then of, well, who am I to call them evil? Why would they be evil? Why would I not be? Well, and we're the same family. Well, again, look at the story of Cain and Abel. That's why it's there. What's the difference of Cain and Abel? They were both born in the same family, but still, one is evil and one is good. You can't blame it on upbringing. Cain and Abel were brought up the same way. You can't blame it on, being a family thing, being a generational curse. You can't blame it on that, right? Because they were of the same generation. It comes down to this. You have to know who you are, who God made you. Because no matter what who your father is, your mother is, no matter what blood or DNA is in you, God has preordained, God has given you giftings that have nothing to do with your family. Nothing to do with your dad's bloodline. Nothing to do with your mom's bloodline. This is where we get into you being a sovereign individual soul with your own purpose. And it separates you from your brothers and sisters and your mom and your dad. So the only thing later in life that connects you to your brother and sister and mom and your dad is what we call the generational curse, if you will, the bond. And what is that bond? It's your inability to leave. Every time you go and have Christmas with them, you're a part of their bond. Every time you say hi to them and talk to them, you're part of the bond. And we stay in these bonds with these people who we have no business being with. Again, it's like Cain and Abel. Did Abel have any business being with Cain? I don't believe so. I think that story was there to tell us how different they were. Unfortunately, they didn't have the option to separate because there was nowhere else to go. But the story is there because we do have an option to separate.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sir. How do you deal with them trying to give you the guilt trip? And as far as my other
Right.
relationship, that was a 16-year relationship. It took me 5 years to get out of it,
Yeah.
and I was completely isolated because that's how abuse works. It's progressive.
Yes, it is.
So in the end, I had no friends. I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody. I was dumb. I was stupid. Everything's my
Right.
fault, and I should just lay down and die because I'm awful. It was like that. But
That's
then
a
it took
tactic.
5 years because he stalked me and everything else. So
Yeah.
it took 5 years to get rid of this guy. And now it's been 10 years. I did become a Christian after that.
Mm-hmm.
It took a while because I came from a cult, which that's abusive too. So you can learn about occult behavior. It's horrible. Same thing. And so now I'm in a place where 10 years I can't get intimate with close relationship wise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with another person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid to be in crowds.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're right. I do have a lot to offer. So
Right.
how can I get past this? Because I do need to get past this.
Yeah. So if I were to give
You know
us,
what I mean?
if I were to give a step by step of what it would look like, number one, it would look like cut the family members out. If they are a reason for your pain, cut them out. Are they going to tell you that you're this and that? Yes. But yes, they're going to tell you you're rude. Yes, they're going to tell you you're selfish. Yet they're going to attack you. But the way I tell people this is they're going to attack you anyways, right? It doesn't matter if you ignore them or if you go hang out with them, they're going to attack you, are they not? So you might as well just cut them out. And eventually when they see that their attacks don't get anywhere with you, they stop. Because they get something out of attacking you. They get a sense of power. They get a sense of authority. They get a feeling like they're better than you. This is how narcissism works. So by you ignoring it, by you shutting them out, it gives them nothing. Okay? You have to convince yourself and teach yourself that you don't need them in life. One of our biggest problems in toxic relationships comes down to what we need, what we think we need. But I have to have a relationship with them. No, you don't. Right? And so it takes that strength to understand that if you can live with them with their abuse, you can live without them without abuse. You can.
Okay, how does that tie into honor your parents?
Honor your parents when you're young, when you're a child, when you are under their authority, when you live under their roof, when you eat the food that they provide, when you take the allowance that they give you. Honor them. Honor that. But when you are an adult, late 20s, 30s, 40s, they're no longer your parents. Your mom's not your mommy. Your dad's not your daddy. That stops when you're a teenager. It stops before then even. So what you have now is a relationship from person to person. Jesus said this in the New Testament when people came to him and said, Jesus, your mom and your brother, they want to talk to you. Jesus said, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? He's making a very profound statement here. He's saying, I left home a long time ago. My mom, my brothers, I left home. I left home. I'm a man. I left home. And he pointed to his disciples and he said, these people right here, these are my mother and my brother and my sister. This is my family. So what Jesus is saying here is when you grow up, you choose your family. Now,
Okay.
one of the things that is supposed to happen, the idea behind this, what according to Christianity, according to faith, according to the Bible, is that, again, God said, therefore a man shall leave the mother and father and become united with the new spouse, and the two become one. So biologically, what you're dealing with and what you have been dealing with is you have a desire, a biological desire to have your own family where you are the matriarch and you have children and you have a husband and you're the queen and it's your household. That's a biological, desire that most women have. Maybe you don't, but typically you do. And so what happens, and I see this time and time again, and I when I talk with people with consultations and whatnot, if you don't have that, if you don't have the husband and the kids, you don't have your own family, there tends to be a natural default to go back to your family of origin. And you try to assert your matriarch desire in there, to be somebody who has a voice in there, to be somebody who has a say in there. And this is a problem because you never will be. You never will be. Your mom was the matriarch of that family, the family that you were born into. Nobody else can be. right? And so that's part of it. So, you're up against the biology of it. You're also up against the narrative of it. Honor your mom and dad, which a lot of people think means that you have to call them every day. You don't. You don't even have to talk to them at all. That's not what honoring is. Listening to their abuse, listening to them tell you their horrible thoughts about you, that's not honoring. That doesn't, there's nothing to do with it. Your honoring time is done. And I believe that you've probably honored them enough. And I believe if anybody needs to be honored now, it's you. You need to honor yourself. You need to honor yourself in the situation.
Okay, so how does one do that?
It takes time. One of the first.
How do I get to a place of feeling confident?
Yeah, well, the first thing, like I said,
myself?
sure. The first thing, like I said, is not associating with people who rob you of your confidence. So if the family and the parents and the brothers and sisters rob you of your confidence, being around them, and narcissistic people typically do that, they suck you dry of your confidence. You got to get rid of them. That's the first and foremost thing. You got to shave that off of your life. These are dead branches that you're carrying around with you that need to be cut away.
And this is why my father argues with me, because I will not talk to my older brother. He's abusive. He doesn't talk to me right. And he's a chronic alcoholic too. So he can't be in a place of being in a sound mind. So I will not talk to him.
Good.
I stay away from him, and my father can't stand it.
But it doesn't matter. Your
father. I hang up on him, and he gets mad.
Let
him. I say, if hanging up on you to not fight is a problem, then so be it.
There you go. So you know how to do it. What you're doing is fine. I would say that probably
it's a constant argument.
Right.
And these are the kind of people, is this a narcissistic trait? They like you to feel sorry for them to get their way.
Yes. And this is why you have to have such strong boundaries and say no. And when you see your dad calling in and you know he's calling in to argue, he's calling in to fight, he's calling in to say, you don't answer the phone. I know it sounds simple. I know it's not. I know you're going to see that phone ring and you're going to say, oh, it's my dad. I got to honor him. No, you don't. There's nothing honoring to a parent about picking up a phone when you know there's going to be a fight. That's dishonoring to them and to yourself. So a lot of it comes down to discernment. You having you using your intuition, your understanding, your discernment, saying, why is he calling right now? If it's to fight, if it's to tell me that I don't need to pick it up. And you do this over and over and over again until you train yourself that this is the way to do it. Yes, he's going to get mad. Let him get mad. You're a grown woman. You're not a little girl anymore that he can, put on timeout. Doesn't work like that anymore. You're a grown woman. And for the first time in your life, I think you need to stand up for yourself as a grown woman against your dad. And you have to look at it is standing up against a bully. Doesn't matter if it's a dad or a mom. Bullies are bullies. But again, this goes into that dark territory of being able to admit and accept that that's who your parents are. And you're not like that, and therefore you have nothing to do with that, because what does light have to do with darkness? What did Abel have to do with Cain, his own brother? Nothing. We have to accept this. A large part of this is acceptance. When you get to the place where you can say, you know what? I don't like my dad. I don't like my mom. I don't like my brother. I don't like my sister. I don't like them. Because the truth is,
I don't like them.
Thank you. There you go. So that's the honest answer.
I don't like them.
That and bingo. Because you're able to admit it, but you're able to.
We don't even see things intellectually the same. We never did.
That's right. And so when you look at it this way, the only reason now that you are paying them any attention and talking to them and wasting your time and allowing them to drain your energy is because you feel you have to, because somebody stuck this have to nonsense in your head.
Because it's guilt. And you're such a bad person.
And the guilt.
You're always such a bad person. I told you I grew up with human torture, right?
Yes.
I used to get in trouble for anything.
Yes.
But my brother, 13 DUIs, we love him.
Oh,
I
yeah.
say one bad word, she's the worst person on the planet.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I already know.
Yeah.
And my father's like I can't. I'm gonna die, and no one's getting along. Why can't you get along? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You're not gonna die. Stop it.
Yep.
So I don't know, but like I said, I have even a fear of being in the crowd in Walmart or a supermarket.
Angela, someone says here real quick on chat, Angela Bowman says, your parents are always your parents. This is a good point. You ready for this? Your parents are always your parents in their mind. So this is why they will never treat you like you have an equal voice with them. Your dad will continue to call you and tell you that you're wrong and you're selfish and you're doing it wrong and this and that, because in his mind, you're just a daughter unable to make your own healthy decisions. This is where you need to look at it differently. And you need to say, I don't need a daddy anymore. I'm a grown woman.
I don't need a daddy. Because the moment I tell him the problem, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
That's like his favorite word. I don't want to hear it.
They don't care.
I only want nice.
Yeah.
I only want nice words out of you.
Right.
Keep smiling while I insult you.
It's exactly because he doesn't care. They don't care about you as an individual. And if you're honest with them, like you were honest with me a minute ago, you don't like them. And the reason is because of the differences. Again, it doesn't matter that you were born. It doesn't matter that you have their blood. You are inherently different than they are.
As a person of faith, that feels so wrong that I don't like them.
And that's the problem.
I'm supposed to love my humankind. I'm supposed to love humanity. But I don't like them.
Yeah, that's right.
Period.
That's right. Good for you. That's the truth.
So I'm actually torn because I'm supposed to have love for my mankind.
It says what?
I'm supposed to love my parents. I'm supposed to love I do have a son, and he has learned that kind of behavior, and I'm standing up for myself. And we fight constantly. So anyway, it's just forever this problem.
Right. It's the guilt.
And I feel torn. I'm supposed to love them, but I don't like them.
You don't have to. You don't have to. That's the thing. And this is why you're torn, is because you're trying to do something you don't want to do. You're doing it inauthentically. You're doing it without genuineness because you don't like them, because they've tortured you, because they've tormented you. And so you're forcing yourself to like people who don't like you. You're forcing yourself to love people. And this is what keeps us stuck in toxic relationships. At some point.
I was taught to be this way. Fun fact, I was a Jehovah's Witness for 9 years.
Yeah.
And that also is an extremely abusive environment. And women are taught to be silent and tolerate. In fact, the elders told me to when I told them that my mother was doing that. So that's the environment that I had. And when you leave, you lose everybody. You are shunned by everybody you know.
Yeah, but when you leave, and listen, and I've been there. When you leave these families,
so then you know.
I know.
Yes,
I know. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. But when you leave these people, and it seems like everybody, because it does, I get it. I walked away from an entire family myself. That's why I'm able to talk in this manner about walking away from families.
And that's why I stayed in a bad relationship for 16 years, because I had nobody. And I didn't know what to do because I'm all alone.
Well, hang on. That's the thing. We look at it as we're leaving everybody. But when we finally get out and you look at it and you realize how big the world is in comparison to that one little group, it's not everybody. It's not even, it's a raindrop in a bucket that you've had to walk away from. It seems like it's everybody in our world and in our universe. I get that, but it's not. It's a raindrop in a bucket of this world full of people. And now here's the problem. You and I carry the burden in this life to find people who are going to be good to us. That's your burden. You've got it's the burden we carry. We have to know who we are first, then we have to be able to identify people who we can get along with. And these people become, like Jesus said, these are my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, your chosen family. You find your chosen family when you know yourself, you accept that you don't like what you were born in. You reject that. I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want their drinking problems. I don't want their partying problems. You reject that and you reject it like light rejects the darkness. They can't coexist together. And from that, you move on and you find your chosen family. All right? I know it's tough.
Okay.
Listen, the final thing is that what we're talking about here is a lot of deep stuff. It's so complex and complicated, so many parts of it, that you're not going to wake up tomorrow feeling better. So to give you the short list of how to do this, one, start to figure out ways to go no contact while ignoring the insults, because they're going to insult you. Accept it. Number two, accept the fact that you don't like them, and remember that when they're insulting you. Of course they're going to insult me, and I hate it. I hate their insults. I hate that they have to do that. That's why I'm leaving them. That's why I'm turning my back, because I want nothing to do with that. I don't want to be like that. I'm called to be different. And sometimes the only way to be different is to not associate. So, and ultimately, you can love them without associating with them. But that comes way down the road after you first learn that it's okay to not like them. Then you can learn how to love them, right? Because we are told to love the people we don't like. And it's possible, but first you need to understand who you like, who you don't like. Then you can love them, right? So there's a lot of steps. There's a lot of ways.
And forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to be around them either.
No, not at all. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness just means you're not going to take revenge. But you don't have to be reconciled to people. So, well, listen, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off on this phone call. But I'm thankful that you called. I really am.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate that.
You have a good night.
Okay, you too. Take care.
Bye. Wow. I'm about to run out of battery here. Who minds if I take a quick pause to go get the charger? Do you guys mind? Everybody say, you guys think you can entertain each other in the chat while I go get my computer charger? I'll be right back. Hang on. Heyo, I'm back. All right. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it was a different battery this time. The battery that was going to go out was my computer battery, which is just as bad. So I have had a situation once before where the computer battery went out while I was live streaming. This is a huge problem because the screen goes black. Everything stops uploading, but the live stream still goes on YouTube's end. We'll take a phone call. I'll share my story later.
Call from to accept.
Hi, you're live on the Royal We.
Hey.
Hi.
I got a bunch of questions about an ex, and I need a lot of clarity.
I'm sorry, say that again. About what?
About an ex-boyfriend.
Okay. Well, I hope that we can answer them. Hope I can answer them for you.
Okay.
So it's a long, complicated story with a lot of people praying against us. So I don't know how much we had a start to begin with, but there was a point where we saw God moving and answering every prayer. And then he switched up on me and he started persecuting me. So he was staying in my home at that point in the other room. And I felt God saying, okay, it's time for him to go and get his own place. We started arguing, and this went on for months, about I'm not hearing from God, and he wanted to read the Bible when he came here, but then he didn't, and I'm pushing him. He said I manipulated him, and this has really messed me up because I'm going through so much oppression. I feel weight, I feel his burden, and I feel some kind of spiritual transference that took place.
Yeah.
I basically, he agreed to do these things, but then switched up on me, and now he wants nothing to do with Christ, and he blames me.
Ooh.
I feel like I was a little too legalistic, possibly, with the Bible, but he also agreed to it. Yeah, it's a very dangerous place. I feel like I'm risking my calling, my salvation. I was hearing God, now I'm not. I feel dark.
Wow.
I don't know what to make of this, so, yeah.
Okay, this is not a good story.
No.
Not at all. So let me ask you a couple questions. How old are you, if you don't mind my asking?
45.
Okay, and with this relationship, are you married?
No.
But you're living together?
No, we're not living together anymore. He moved out months ago, and he was only here for a little bit.
So you were living together?
Just for like a month.
Okay.
On and off. There was a couple things that happened where I had to come back, but it was a week, couple days. It wasn't any long-term kind of thing.
Did the relationship become sexual?
Yes, and this is where it gets a little confusing.
Yeah.
Before I got saved, I was with him. This is an 8-year relationship. When I got saved, he left. I got ready to stop having sex, stopped all that. Then he got saved, and the evidence of that was he was a drug addict. He stopped the drugs. He was a womanizer, and he became like completely devoted to me. So there was a definite something happened there. Anyway, my point of saying that is I don't know if this makes a difference, but we had I had some abortions with him. We did not have sex after I got saved for the most part. We did slip once or twice. I did not feel condemned. I don't understand why. I actually felt more of the Holy Spirit. I can't make this up unless it's false. I don't know. I don't know what to think.
Well, I can tell you that there's a couple of problems in this relationship dynamic that has you both very confused and down this wrong path, and exactly exploded in exactly the way it is, with him telling you that you're the reason that he no longer believes in this and that and yada yada. And I'm going to tell you that it's not your fault on your own. This is just the dynamics of toxic relationships. So he came back into a relationship after you were saved. You're doing things in a relationship.
Yeah, he came back.
Okay, so you're doing things in a relationship, and this is not judgmental. I'm not saying this to be judgmental, but you're doing things in a relationship that both know and all know not to do. Otherwise, if you're married, unless you are married, you're acting a married part, but you're not. What happens is, even though you're not condemned by it, it invalidates the faith. And when you say you became legalistic, you possibly became legalistic, it invalidates it even more. It's kind of like telling a druggie, you know what? I believe in the Lord. The Lord wants to save you. Here, have another shot of heroin. I'm going to give it to you. And the druggie's going to look at you and say, "Are you? What's? This is weird." And I know you're going to say, but he was just as much at fault. Yes, he was. But narcissistic people, they don't look at it that way, and nor do they care. His goal was to get you to lower your guard, to lower your defenses, to really test and see if you are the believer that you say you are. And this is what the devil wants to do. The devil wants to roam around and say, "You think you have faith? Watch this." The devil will bring in exactly what your weakness is, so that you fall. So then the devil turns around and says, "See, you're really not a believer, are you? You really don't believe all that legal nonsense that you talk about." And here's where the problem goes with the other person. They do, in fact, turn their back on their faith. But here's what you don't need to worry about. It's not your fault that he didn't believe. He already didn't believe. Okay? Understand that.
Mm-hmm.
He went into the relationship not believing. How do we know this? Because he came in and did his part to pressure you for sex. So to him, it was
No, he didn't.
well,
He didn't.
but he went that route.
We were not active like that. We slipped like we were together 7 months on and off. We slipped twice. It
Okay.
wasn't like slipping. It doesn't matter. But
Exactly.
I'm saying it was. He actually denied, like, he didn't want to put that in a relationship either. So it's very confusing to me because there's a lot of things that you could see where he was trying, and we saw a lot of miracles, a lot of prayers answered. But regardless of all that, something switched in him, and he started mocking me, saying he wasn't going to make Christ his life, and that was the end of it.
and again, it goes back to these people. He thought when he went back to the relationship, he had you on this pedestal. This is the person that's going to save me from my life of misery. He finds out, and this is narcissistic cycles. He finds out that you are in fact just a human being. You mess up too.
Right.
You slip. Now that you slipped, well, you're nothing. You slipped, you're nothing. And as a result of you slipping, I don't even believe anymore because I thought that I looked at you as better than me. And narcissistic people in the beginning, they do. And when you show that you're not, it is a huge fall from grace. I mean, an epic fall. Narcissistic people have zero tolerance when somebody falls because they look at it as you failed them. You failed me.
Yeah.
And so this is it. And so, but again, I say this to you, is it your fault that he doesn't believe? No, don't listen to that nonsense. He didn't believe going into it, not the way he said he did. Narcissistic people are very good at, in their love bombing phase, telling you, oh yeah, I changed, I'm a true believer, and they morph from one image to the next, trying to find who they are in this life. And so that's very typical. And when he came across you and you were this stellar person trying to be this person of faith and yeah, you were what he wanted to be. He idolized that. But as the relationship progressed and you fell back a couple of times, you slipped back into a couple of the old patterns of the relationship. Well, now there's no reason. There's nothing more, you're no longer up here. You fell with him. And it's hard because you can say, okay, well, let's go back to church now. Let's redo our faith. But with these types of personalities, it's too late. Now they're, it's like I don't believe anymore. I mean, this is why we have to do, our very best to not be involved with these people, letting them in, doing things. Again, narcissistic abuse is a result of being with people you have no business being with, doing things you have no business doing, going places you have no business going. And so as a result of this, what you have is, one, forgive yourself. You've already said you don't feel condemnation. I think the pain you feel as a result of this relationship falling apart, I believe that would be the condemnation. That is it. That's the burn. That's that when you touch fire, ooh, that hurts. That hurts. And so you need to feel that. You need to have this.
There's one last question.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm not talking to him because God made it very clear, like the idol thing, to break it off. All right. So I have been trying really hard, and I haven't been able to totally ignore the phone calls, but I've gotten better at it. I block a number and he calls or he texts from another. So every time we end up in a fight, I kind of want to apologize. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, okay, there's no making peace, like you said. There's no making peace. But anyway, even just from one text, I can make all this progress in a week. And it's not about what I say, but from one text, it's like I feel that spiritual transference. Is that real? I don't know if you could explain to me what's going on. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying I want you back. It's just, I'll say something simple, And all of a sudden, it's like he takes all my energy. Is that possible, or is this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So when we talk about bonds or soul ties or generational curses, how do these things even live? How do they survive? They survive through contact, any kind of contact. Okay. Again, I go back to this. I go back to the story of Abraham. like over and over again. We can write this one down, right? It doesn't even say that Abraham's family was toxic, right? But God said, but not to Abraham. But they were toxic enough to God that God said, Abraham, I will make you a father of many nations, but you have got to leave your family. You've got to walk away from that entire town and all their celebrations, all their text messages, all their social media. You got to separate it. And then I will work with you, and I will perfect you, and I will bless you. We can't expect God to heal us when we look at their text messages. Do you follow me?
Right.
God can't.
That makes sense.
He can't do anything if we're playing peekaboo with their social media. So these things do provide transference. These things do keep soul ties real. These things do keep the bonds real. These things keep generational curses real. It's not until you do the difficult step of severing that tie. You want to end a soul tie. You want to end a bond. It begins with severing the physical strings first.
We did that.
Well, kind of. If you're getting text messages, that's a physical string because you physically have to look at the phone. You physically see the number. So these things are all physical. You physically see it with your eyes. You see his number. You see his message. You've got to sever that first. Then the soul tie, you're still going to feel it because then you have to cleanse yourself. So first you have to cut yourself away from what's draining you. Then you could actually begin to heal. And that's painful because the healing is going to be a process. Yeah. That's going to be a process of self-forgiveness. It's going to be a process of checking your areas of vulnerability in your life. It's going to be a process of, like King David said, search me, search my heart, O Lord. How did he get back in? How did that guy get in? What happened? Right?
We had 3 prophecies, like 3 or 4 prophecies from strangers that he was the one. And like we had literally every confirmation, like I said, our prayers were being answered, everything lined up. So that's how we got back in. I don't know if you were asking me or just saying that, but that's how that happens.
I'm not exactly sure how prophecies work, especially with dating and how it can lead to moving in with one another and stuff. I don't know. I don't, like I said, at some point those prophecies turned into something else. So maybe they were prophecies, but then it turned into, well, okay, move in.
Right, it wasn't God's way.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm not exactly sure where the prophecy part fits in. I don't know. But perhaps if anything was a prophecy for you to be tested again on your spiritual armor, so to speak, right? On who you're letting into your life, how the enemy can get in, how the enemy can get into you. And we're all vulnerable. We are all vulnerable. We have to really do our due diligence. And again, it's not a matter of, shame on you. That's not what this is.
Right.
This is a matter of just helping you understand this is why you're hurting. And hopefully this is how you can resolve that hurt.
That makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for calling in.
Bye.
Bye. I love the phone calls tonight. They're fantastic. Thank you, everybody. How's everybody doing in the chat? Hopefully I'm not overly anxious on the phone calls tonight. Sometimes I can come across as anxious and overly excited and I don't want to overpower. So I'm still learning how to balance out my my interactions on the live phone calls, right? So it looks like people are starting to sign off and go to bed. So with that, I do want to thank everybody for being here tonight and for being a part. I know, low battery. Thank you. Lorna has a question. What's going on, Lorna? It's good to see you on here. Is it about my battery? I'm gonna wait here for Lorna to ask a question. Battery, I know. Yep. Typically when the battery's going like that, it means that I've got a few minutes left. So Lorna says I'm in the middle of suffering silent treatment. Yeah. And that's hard. That's really hard. Silent treatment is hard. Oh, wait, one more phone call. We'll take this phone call here.
Call from
Judy Monroe.
Hello, you're live on the Royal We.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
My name's Judy. I wasn't sure if I'd get through or not.
You got through. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm struggling with healing.
Okay.
I'm diagnosed with complex PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
and I get triggered a lot
Mm-hmm.
with issues, and a lot with my ex-husband of 15 years. And it's just recent, the last year, that we've been separated
Mm-hmm.
and divorcing. But I used to not dream at all, and now I'm starting to dream.
Mm-hmm.
And the dreams are so vivid
Mm-hmm.
that I wake up and I feel like they're real, and
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how to get through this and beyond it, because I feel like I'm really living what I lived.
Right. You know, the physical manifestations that we feel healing from narcissistic abuse are very real, and they're very different from everybody. Well, there's a lot of similarities, but a lot of them are very different. Some people get anxiety attacks. Some people, like me, I suffered from ruminating thoughts. I didn't have dreams at night, like what you're talking about. I had dreams during the day. I had dreams while I was awake. I would be, and I'm just sharing this with you to let you know you're not alone, but that it's similar, but they're different. So my dreams would be, and it's what we call ruminating thoughts. I could be working, and suddenly I would reenact a situation with these narcissistic people in my mind. And I would take on that role intensely. And I literally had to walk off of a job once because I couldn't take it. I was at the table working across from somebody else, and I just went into a zone where I was arguing and physically acting this out like I was in a dream, but I wasn't. I was supposed to be working. And the guy working with me, the poor guy, I stopped. I kind of snapped out of it, and I looked up at him, and he's looking at me going, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." He said, "It looks like you were having quite the intense conversation there." And I'm like, I'm having a problem. I'm having a hard time. And I walked out. I went and I told my boss, I can't be here. I've got to go. That's how bad it was. And so I tell you this to let you know that these ruminating thoughts, dreams do happen. The unresolved trauma that's inside of you, inside of your heart, inside of your body as a result of abuse, it's real. All I can say is give yourself patience and give yourself time. Your body is going to do what it needs to do to heal. If it's slowly going to work it out, the danger's out. Your body still feels threatened in a lot of ways. Okay? So it's going to take time for your body to realize that the threat's no longer there. And as time goes on, you can start to learn to do other things to take its place. Start to challenge yourself with little things here and there. Go do things that you like doing, and you'll push those ruminating thoughts, whether they're dreams or daydreams, whatever, you'll push them out. But it takes time. Give yourself patience. Don't be afraid to feel. Don't be afraid to feel the pain. I think that we think that it's going to just go away in a day. We should get over it. How silly it is. We keep thinking about this stuff, keep having dreams. I say no. Boo. Right? It's let your body feel it. Let your body experience it. Understand that it's transforming you. It's changing you. It's not going to go away in a night. The pain's not going to go away in a day. The dreams might not go away for a month. 2 months, 3 months, a year. It's part of the healing process. So give yourself patience and understanding. Give your body patience and understanding, right? You wake up from a dream, from a nightmare, and you're like, that sucks. Just tell yourself, say, self, you've been through a lot. I get it. I get it. And that's the best thing you could do. Self-care.
What's hard is I'm trying to co-parent, and I have no way to really not escape him. He's always doing something, and yes, during the day hours, I'm always. I can't focus on anything that I need to be focusing on.
Call from.
I'm not hanging up on you.
To accept, press 1.
Okay, you there?
Does things constantly to
Right.
make things difficult. His control is still over me.
Right.
And his biggest thing is to block me. So the only way I have to communicate with him is to leave a voicemail.
Right.
And so I can't even text him. And so I'm triggered by hearing his voicemail, his voice on the voicemail. And it's just, I can't.
That's one of the hardest things. When you, again, that's a physical attachment. You haven't severed that. That's a hard one. It's a hard one because it's really difficult to move on with your life without severing that tie. I think that in these situations, all that we can do in these situations is make sure that any interaction has nothing to do with anything but the kids. Period. End. That's it.
Now he's got it so I can't even call him. You know, if I call, he's got it so if I call and leave a voicemail because I was triggered and said something he didn't like hearing because it was the truth, he's had the cops call me and say that I'm going to be charged with harassment if I call and leave a message.
Yeah.
So now
you got to stop calling them. You got to stop calling. Don't do that. Just don't do it.
But the only way I can make arrangements to see my son is to call the house and talk to my son, and it's just a mess. Everything. You know, the courts aren't being helpful. I'm supposed to have a signed visitation, and they won't.
If you're not getting they have to. So whatever the court has ordered has to be done. And this is where you can turn the tables. So if the court order says that the kids have to be dropped off at this particular time and they're not, you document the time, pictures, notes, whatever, and you go to the court with his name on it. He's failing. He's failing his part of the court order. You take him to court. But a lot of times we shy away from that. You shy away from that because you don't want to cause waves. Cause waves. Show him that you're not messing around. As long as you stay on your part of the court order, you're good. But if he's not doing his part of the court order, then you take him to court. You document it every time. Drop it off. If he calls you yelling and screaming, you call the police. I know it's not what you want to do, but it sounds like he's playing a pretty dangerous game, and the only way to stop it is to gain that, is to do your part right and make sure, enforce, not you. You can't enforce it. And this is this is where we mess up. You think that you calling him and telling him, you know, we've got to make arrangements and this and that, you think that's going to, no, he likes that because he has power over you. It's like you begging and groveling. But now if you sign it, if you turn in a documentation to whoever is, you know, whoever mediating your case or whatever, and now they call him better drop the kids off, right? And that's a different story. So you're going to have to go that route with these people. And I know this from experience. My mom had to do that with my dad. I know this. My mom couldn't get anywhere with him. It was just a fight. So you've got to, so you've got to go the legal route. You've got to put it in the hands of the people who have the orders. Okay? And so
my attorney, I had to fire him because he sabotaged me, and I don't have set visitation. It was supposed to be while my husband was working, I could see the kids, and my husband intentionally got fired, and so that's a whole other story.
Yeah,
and,
that's unfortunate. That
it's all
it's
all his games and playing, and it's just so I'm supposed to be getting a new attorney and everything else.
Yeah, I'm gonna take another phone call, if you don't mind, because we can go on and on about the different things, because there's a lot. But I encourage you just to do what we said, do things the legal route. Okay.
Call from.
You're live on the Royal We. Uh-oh. Looks like it didn't go through. It looked like there was a call from Sweden. If you would like to call in, try again. Go ahead and try again. I saw it come through. I think that was probably Lorna calling from Sweden. Try and call again, and we'll see if we can get you on. I didn't mean to abruptly end the other phone call. When I hit the button to hold and to answer it before I lose that call, it disconnects. So I didn't mean to end that other phone call abruptly. I apologize for that. I desperately need like a phone service. I think if I'm going to be doing this for real, I need like a Dave Ramsey phone service.
Call from
Heather.
Try again. Go ahead and try again. You're live on the Royal We.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hey, this is Heather. This is Kevin.
Yeah. Hi, Heather. Can you turn the computer down in the background? I can hear my voice.
Yes, I know. I'm kind of trying. Okay, I gotta stop that too. I need like a sorry about that. Oh my gosh, I've never done this before. Okay, hi, I'm Heather. First of all, I discovered you. I'm grateful for you first and foremost,
Thank
and
you.
I have experienced a ton of healing through your podcasts, YouTube videos. So quick background, because I kind of have a question for you, but quick background on me. Severe, I would say, cruelty and violence as a child. Overcame all of that somehow, some way through sports and careers and whatever. And then, of course, married into a very, very narcissistic family. And listening to your previous caller with the problems with her, I think there's probably been parental alienation and everything that goes along with that. Thank goodness it didn't stick. But I am now 10 months fleeing a very severe domestic violence situation.
Okay.
And so, and I'm okay. I have wonderful friends. I have an amazing support system in place. Thank goodness.
That's good.
But yeah, and so I've really enjoyed everything you've had to say about healing from narcissistic abuse. And there's so many different levels too, like psychopath, sociopath, all of that. But I just appreciate your general view, especially your Christian perspective. But in addition to that, sorry, I have a lot to say and share, but I love your coverage recently on the Gabby situation. And I want to just give you props, and I want to
thank you.
Just say thank you
I
for
feel
being.
I feel overly flattered. I don't deserve all. I don't deserve all. But thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. Thank you. You made my night. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so the purpose for my call sans a tiny bit of background from me, but you know, you have. I just listened to your first, like, I don't know what you call it, like the fellowship
Yeah.
connection, or
Okay.
okay.
Saturday mornings,
So I really,
fellowship. Mm-hmm.
yes, I just listened to that today, even though it's Monday, it's not Saturday. But I really, I love your interpretation of the perspective of Jesus and how to identify narcissists and then what to do with them. And I just really like how you boil it down. So my question for you is, if I think you said, you know, God created light and darkness, because you cannot have one without the other. And my question for you is, I just would love to hear you drill down on that a little bit, because I do love God. I do love Jesus. Like, I go to church. Like, I'm more spiritual than religious, but
Right.
but I'd love to hear your thoughts on why does there have to be both, right?
Wow.
Like, so
You have you're asking for it here, Missy.
bring it. Hey, bring it.
You're one of them deep thinkers, I can tell. So, you know, it's I'm going to try to, just for time's sake, simplify this, but it's something that we all wrestle with. Why is there the Cain and why is there the Abel, right? Why is there good? Why is there evil? One of the things that we see even in the Bible, and I was fascinated by this in my healing journey, it's when I discovered that God is a God of division. God is a God of division, not of unification. How do we know this? Because in the beginning was darkness. It was chaos. And God spoke and said, let there be light. And the important thing to understand here, and I know you referenced this, is that God then saw the light and he saw that it was good. So what God did is he qualified something and he made it opposite of something else. Light, good. What was there before the light? Nothing. Not good. And now watch this. He divided them. He divided the light from the darkness. The light he called good, the darkness he called night. So we have our first division in the very beginning. And then after that, we get into the sin. And one of the reasons they weren't supposed to eat of the tree of knowledge is because God said it will make them like us, knowing good from evil. In other words, knowing division, having two options, right, wrong, good, evil. So now that and this is what the tree of knowledge provides. This is what knowledge is. Knowledge is the basis for evil. Knowledge is what allows us to have options, okay? And so now that we have good and evil, what's the extent of good and evil? How do we know what the ends are? And so we get that in the very first story. Obviously, Adam and Eve, they sin. Now they gain knowledge. So now, what's the consequences of it? Well, the ultimate consequences of this knowledge of evil is death. And so this now becomes displayed in the story of Cain and Abel, two brothers, the first two human beings born, which represents, Cain represents 50% of the population. Abel represents 50% of the population, right? Because there's only two
choices.
Yeah. And there's only two people born on the earth at the time. So it's half of society versus half of society. And you see one side represents darkness, one side represents light. And so one side, Abel, represents good, Cain represents murder. And I believe in this, God created the measuring stick now. Now we know what the far end of evil looks like, and we know what the far end of obedience looks like. Evil and obedience. This now is the measuring line between good and evil. It's almost as if God, if somebody were to ask a question, okay, Adam and Eve sinned, so what does this mean now? What is evil? What's the knowledge of good and evil? God said, okay, well, here, I'll show you. Cain, boom. Abel, boom. Here's your measuring stick. And there's all this area in between. And now watch this. They require one another in order to have knowledge. Knowledge doesn't exist unless there's a good and unless there's an evil. Good doesn't exist unless there's an evil. If you don't have a Cain, then there's no Abel. If you don't have an Abel, then there's no Cain. So they have to both exist so that we have this understanding. And so now when we talk about narcissism, narcissistic abuse, evil in the world, murder in the world, there's no good
Well, and like
if there's no evil.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think that's why I'm calling in. So first of all, I've never done anything like this before. So, but I'm so fascinated because it's like you can't have an abuser without a victim, and you can't have a victim without an abuser. So you can't have light without terror. So so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
and in your own personal journey though in life, let's take it beyond victimhood and abusers. In your own personal journey, would you really know what good is if you couldn't see and witness evil? Right?
No, I don't believe so.
Exactly. And so I believe that a part of our interaction with narcissistic people, with toxicity, a part of us growing up and dealing with bullies, a part of us experiencing and witnessing violence is that we see it, we acknowledge it, we know it, and now we know what it is, and we then discover our place. Are we like that or are we not? And here's the thing.
Okay.
It's not about eradicating the good or the evil. This is an ancient Hebrew understanding, by the way, the Old Testament. I talked to a rabbi once. Then this is why in Deuteronomy, God is able to say, I am God of both good and evil. I cause my sun to rise on...
oh my gosh.
I cause my sun to rise on the righteous and the unrighteous. What is God saying? God is saying that I provided the measuring stick of good and evil. Death and murder is on the stick is on the end of evil. Good and obedience is on this other end. I'm the God of all of it, by the way. That's what God is saying. And so
that's part of my whole question, which is, so what came first, darkness or light? Because if God is light, which I believe he is,
yes,
like
darkness,
then he must have created darkness too.
Darkness is the absence of light. Darkness is the absence of God. So if it's interesting that you asked that, because in the beginning it says that in the beginning darkness was over the surface of the deep. There was nothing. It was chaos. So darkness is another way of saying chaos, disorder, nothingness.
I see.
And that's what evil is. Evil is chaos, nothingness. This is why even evil people, when they look into their eyes, there's nothingness. And in their heart, it's chaos. They're chaos.
Oh,
they're nothing. It's nothingness in the hearts and their eyes. And this gets into depths of stuff we can't understand. There's a lot of people that say, no, there's a living soul and God can do. Well, no, not necessarily. We don't know that. There's something about these people, these entities, these walking things. And I know this is getting deep, and I know you asked, so I'm trying to give it to you here.
Sorry.
And this is
no, thank you.
This I'm going to go on a side note here. There's a lot of belief out there that people say that we can somehow instill hope in others. So we get involved in toxic relationships thinking that, well, I can change them because I'm going to show them what hope is. And then we discover that we're getting our butts kicked time and time again because, listen, I don't know about you, but my hope and my faith, I'm going to say faith, if you will. My faith, if my faith relied on my upbringing, if the reason I have faith was because of what I saw of my dad and my mom, well, I'd be doomed. Okay? Yes. My dad was a womanizer. He left me when I was 4. My mom was an alcoholic. I carried her drunk body in covered in piss more times than I can remember. And now my faith has nothing to do with that. Again, the faith and the hope we have comes from something else. And now we're getting into this, and a lot of people's going to say, this isn't fair, Kevin, where you're going with this. I'm not here to say it's fair. I'm just here to say it is what it is. Our faith and our hope, I believe, is a gift. The Bible says to each has been given a measure of faith. What is this telling you? It tells me that we were born with something. We were given. It's given to us. It's a gift. Faith is a gift. Hope is a gift. And it's given to you. And it's not given to some in that same way or in that same measure. And this is why we have evil and we have good. And so the responsibility in all of this, why is this important? Because we're not responsible You there?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Think I
Can you
lost
hear
my
me?
I lost my camera.
Oh no.
That's okay.
Dang it.
I'll go ahead and end the stream and I'll continue talking to you. But this was a good one. That's
oh
okay.
my gosh. Well, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still